Does the Deebo Samuel trade actually make the Commanders better? The NFL wide receiver trade market has plummeted. Cooper Kupp could still be dealt. Devontae Adams is definitely leaving the Jets, but it's going to be hard for them to trade him. And Deebo Samuel was actually traded over the weekend in exchange for a 5th-round draft pick. And after surviving an altercation at Starbucks, Ian Rappaport broke the news.
San Francisco 49ers star receiver Deebo Samuel has been traded to the Washington Commanders in exchange for a 5th-round draft pick, a major move.
Why would the 49ers take on a Russell Wilson level of dead cap money to get rid of Deebo?
That's right.
The 49ers stand to lose $15 million in cap space this offseason because of this trade. They're hit with $30 million in dead cap, which I think they can spread over 2 years. The idea that they traded Deebo because they need to pay Brock Purdy is simply wrong. I'll discuss why they did this today, how much better Deebo makes the Commanders. Did the Commanders even win this trade? I thought so until I saw the most terrifying thing any Washington fan could witness. Skip Bayless loving this trade.
Washington just went out and stole Deebo Samuel. Flat out stole him from San Francisco for a 5th-round pick, Jerry.
Guys, it's been a long time since he's been right about anything.
He's going to be playing for a contract next year. He wanted out of San Francisco, and now he's going to be on his best behavior.
Let's dive into Deebo. Oh, that's good. Sports. One thing you won't see me do today is go full Acho.
I am a fervent yes. Deebo Samuel will make Jayden Daniels the best quarterback in the NFC because Jayden Daniels now has what all the other NFC quarterbacks have, a down-off guy.
Yeah.
Jalen Hurts, give it to Saquon, down off, breather. Matthew Stafford throwing now pass to Puka Nacua, down off.
Comparing current Deebo to Saquon Barkley and Puka Nacua, that's like comparing Timothy Chalamet to me. Sure, we both have mustaches and have never won an Oscar and wear dumb suits from time to time, but Timothy will never be on my level.
He can get going, he'll tilt this in favor of the Bobcats. I'm going underdog Bobcats here.
Yes,
underdog
okay.
Bobcats.
Ah, fuck! You got me again, Chalamet. Speaking of mustaches, we need 13 more underdog signups by the end of the day, and I'll keep this guy, which you guys seem to love more than me, for another few weeks. If you get me up to 6,000 total signups by the end of the week, I'll keep the flavor saver until the start of the football season. We're 513 signups away from 6,000. Just use my code THATSGOOD if you want to play daily fantasy or in pick'em games at Underdog. You can get up to $1,000 in bonus credits when you do sign up with my code. Plus, there's a Luka Doncic discount for every Lakers game for the rest of the NBA season. Every sign up for the next 2 months is huge for me in this channel, so I greatly appreciate your support. Why did the 49ers trade Deebo Samuel? Is he really that washed? Maybe. I believe the impetus for the trade occurred after he and Kyle Shanahan met for their end-of-year meeting. Something I'm assuming Kyle does with all of the players, and when I say assume, I mean not only did I not double-check that notion, I didn't even single-check it either. But he and Deebo definitely met and came to the conclusion that it would be best for Deebo to move on. Now, they've been flirting with the separation for a couple off seasons now, and for the 49ers to lose the cap space and eat all of that dead cap, which has no nutritional value, Deebo really must have won it out, and they must have been really fine moving on. Now, Deebo had 1 year left on his contract, which is why the 49ers are okay only collecting a 5th-round draft pick for the trade. The last year on an aging skill player's contract it's meaningless. We know it's meaningless. A team trades a player like Deebo when they know they won't re-sign him once his contract expires. And as John Lynch mentioned at the Combine,
at some point you have to reset a little bit, or at least recalibrate. You can't just keep pressing the pedal, and I think there's some good that can come out of it. We need to get younger. You know, I think we're the oldest team in football, trying to make a run at the deal last year, and I think it's good to constantly get younger. Our draft class last year was a great move towards that.
The 49ers are old as balls, and they need to get younger. Younger balls. They need younger balls in their building.
We're excited about adding more youth. to a great core of players that we already have.
Which I think actually means Brandon Ayuk could also be traded despite getting that massive contract extension right before last season started, which was good for 7 games before Ayuk got injured. Why the Washington Commanders, though? Well, they really need a wide receiver number 2, right? And their general manager, Adam Peters, landed the gig in Washington after spending 7 seasons with the 49ers.
And you got so much more in you. You remind me of a couple of guys I used to be with in San Francisco.
The NFL, if you don't know, is a relationship business. Peters knows Deebo Samuel and has to believe his lack of recent production isn't entirely on him. If this works out, Adam Peters is going to get a ton of credit for this move. Peters has essentially turned Jahan Dotson into Marshawn Lattimore and Deebo Samuel, a bunch of movement on late-round picks for low-risk, high-upside veteran acquisitions. Now, Lattimore needs to stay healthy in 2025, and Deebo needs to perform, or both of those trades are going to turn into misses. The Commanders now only have 6 draft picks with none in the 4th or 5th round. I think the veteran presence Washington had was very beneficial to the team last season, but they were the oldest roster in the playoffs, and I think the 8th oldest roster last season. Now, this is a team you want to see get a bit younger with Jayden Daniels at quarterback. San Francisco needs to get a lot younger / cheaper because they finally have to pay their quarterback. The Commanders have more wiggle room with Jayden Daniels in place for several years on his rookie deal. Now, another thing I keep seeing from 49ers fans is that Deebo can't catch, and that all he does is drop passes. I think we all remember this drop.
Flare him out, and the pass caught, and then drop over the middle.
But other than that, his drop rate is actually on par for his entire career. Deebo had 6 drops on 81 targets last year. By comparison, Amari Cooper had double on 85 targets. Pretty much every Packers receiver had more on similar target numbers. Maybe Deebo's were more untimely, but it's an unfair criticism overall. That got magnified because Deebo tweeted that he wasn't struggling, he just wasn't getting the ball enough. And then his own tweet got community noted about his own performance. That's why we remember Deebo's drops. What does Deebo actually bring to the Commanders' offense? That's the real question. We know it's versatility. He's been a receiver / running back, a master of the screen and jet sweep his entire career.
One snap he's in the slot, the next in the backfield.
Brian Baldinger pointed out he's also very tough with the ball in his hands.
Like, you get him near the goal line, he's going to square his shoulders, and he's just going to punch it. He's going to be a touchdown scorer.
He gives the Commanders an extra wrinkle in the red zone. And maybe, just maybe, Jayden Daniels is a better quarterback overall than Brock Purdy, and that opens up more opportunities for Deebo. Last season, the 49ers were dealing with significant injuries to skill position players all year. But comparatively, Deebo's been surrounded by elite weapons his entire career in San Francisco. He needs to actually elevate his game if this is going to look like a good move for the Commanders. And at age 29, I'm not sure if that's actually happening. One thing is certain, nothing is crushing or limiting the Commanders' optimism. Nobody was impressed by the Commanders' free agents last year, and they turned out to be pretty damn good. That's why I wouldn't underestimate Deebo on their roster. Linebacker Frankie Louvu was one of the best free agent signings of the 2024 offseason. And after last year, we gotta trust Adam Peters and Dan Quinn. How much better are the Commanders with Deebo? The answer is a little bit, to possibly a little more bit. Not to be confused with morbid. And one knock on Deebo is he is morbidly obese for a wide receiver, a hybrid Eddie Lacy and Kelvin Benjamin. We will never see the player that Deebo was in 2021. His 1,400-yard receiving season with an additional 365 rushing yards was an outlier. It's eerily similar to Cooper Kupp's 1,900-yard receiving season on the same year. Both Deebo and Kupp feel like very talented receivers who had one exceptional season and after that have never produced at the same level. Both players have dealt with injuries on and off, and as fans, it's very hard to gauge how much of that has slowed them down or prevented either guy from getting anywhere close to their disgusting 2021 seasons. Credit Deebo, though, because he's played through those injuries. But I think it's been a long time since Deebo Samuel's been truly healthy on the field. Terry Mclaurin is the clear-cut #1 receiver for the Commanders. Scary Terry was 4 yards shy of 1,100 yards. Their second leading ball catcher was 34-year-old tight end Zach Ertz. Ertz is getting so old, his teammates call him saggy end in the shower. Droopy end, anything but tight end. After Ertz, their #2 wide receiver was actually Olamide Zaccheaus. Zaccheaus had 506 receiving yards last year. So even a, quote, washed Deebo Samuel produced 170 more receiving yards than Zaccheaus. After Zaccheaus, it was Noah Brown as the Commanders' 4th leading ball catcher. He had 453 yards on the season, and I think most of that came on that game-winning Hail Mary. His lone touchdown certainly did. Then Washington had 29-year-old Austin Eckler at 5th, and Dyami Brown as the 6th guy with 308 receiving yards. I'm going all the way down to Brown because he was excellent in the playoffs. He was the #2 wideout for the team when it mattered the most in the postseason. Brown, though, is slated to be an unrestricted free agent, and it's hard to say how much his playoff performance may have increased his value, but he nearly matched his entire season total of production in 3 playoff games. There's a very good chance the Commanders bring Dyami Brown back. He's supposedly their top priority to re-sign. To me, the Deebo trade feels a bit like an insurance policy if they can't bring Brown back. But I like the Deebo trade a lot more if Dyami Brown does return. The Commanders have a need at the position. And if you think about how good Jayden Daniels was in 2024, a lot of that was done without a dynamic playmaker at the receiver position outside of McLaurin. Zach Ertz is a savvy veteran, but I don't think he could outrun a cop at this point. It's a nice window to fit Deebo in for the Commanders. And ultimately, it's low risk if, say, he does decide that he loves potato chips more than running sprints. If Deebo stays healthy and trim, fit, I think his production is close to what we watched in 2023 when he had roughly 900 receiving yards, 7 receiving touchdowns with another 225 rushing yards and 5 touchdowns. 900 receiving yards would have him as a perfect #2 receiver for the price of a 5th-round pick and $17.5 million. The Commanders are taking the same chance on Deebo as the Texans took on Stephon Diggs, and if Houston showed us anything, there's no such thing as too much depth in your receiving group, especially when you have a talented young quarterback.
I'm going Oregon.
Smart man.
#1 team in the country for a reason.
Fuck! You got me again, Shalom. Thanks for watching That's Good Sports. Don't forget to subscribe here. Did you subscribe yet? You gotta subscribe. Come on, man. It's all I got. It's all I got to measure my value as a man. I'm not tall. I'm not handsome, per se. I need subscribers.